So I understand you said moving forward, if one student has an illness to close down the entire school, but
Well,
that's not been the case with North.
Well, they're looking, that guidance is like elementary schools, high schools, which is a little bit different environment than a large university with multiple buildings and so forth. So we do have a little different situation at Notre Dame, but if an elementary school or a high school were to have a case, then we would close. And that's what we're seeing happening now across the United States. And again, that's new guidance coming out from the Centers for Disease Control.
And does that apply to business?
There's not been any guidance. No, businesses, we want to keep continuity of business. The guidance right now is if an individual does have influenza, and obviously this particular type of influenza, they should have home isolation for 7 days or 24 hours after symptoms have abated, after they are asymptomatic, whichever is longer. So they may have a short duration. You know, they may be sick 3 days, be perfectly well, and be able to go back and, no, I'm saying it wrong. It's 7 days or 24 hours, which is ever longer. So if they're sick for 7 or 8 days, then they need to wait that extra day before going back to work. So it's 7 days. The incubation for this is 2 to 7 days, is what we know. So if individuals have traveled or have had contact, then we would ask those individuals to self-isolate or quarantine themselves to see over that 7 days are they going to develop symptoms. And again, it's that good, it's just, some of this is common sense. If you're incubating a disease and you're not coughing or sneezing yet, you're going to have pretty close contact with an individual to pass that on when you're in the asymptomatic stage. So this is a time for everyone voluntarily distancing, paying attention to where your travels, what your contacts may have been, and just use common sense.
Will you also be telling each county, I should say not if, but when we get a case, for example, in Allen County, will it be identified in Allen County in this kind of situation? I know that usually you have to have more than 5 cases, I think, before you usually.
Right. This is unfolding a little differently. You saw yesterday, we certainly want transparency because of the nature of how this is unfolding. Yesterday, you might have seen, we initially announced it was in northern Indiana because we didn't have enough information. And what we wanted to do was make sure we gave the information, the credible information at the proper time, but we also want to get communications out as quickly as we know something. And so that's why that communication came out yesterday. There was a few hours in between. So transparency is important, but we also don't want to have individuals identified. And so, but I think communities in this situation, because of the community nature. Having said that, though, because we don't know the nature of this virus, and because the way we are seeing it now spread across the United States, that's why every citizen needs to take this seriously. Whether if you're in a state that's not had any cases, we still have the same recommendations. You can't feel secure because you don't know who you've come in contact with that maybe has just had contact in another state. We're a very mobile society. And so that, I think, is a very strong message. This is not a message for just those individuals that have potentially come in contact.
Do we know if the student had traveled outside the state?
This particular student had not had any travel, had traveled to the Southwest, but had been like 3 weeks before. So it was out of that window. Because the incubation period is up to 7 days, if your travel's been outside of it, if you traveled 3 weeks ago to Mexico and you've been fine, then you don't have this illness. So there doesn't seem to be any travel history in this particular.
So what are, I guess, the theories that are left? What are the other?
Well, and that's the case investigation, and that's the part right now, and I think this is really important for folks because this is so new for all of us. As soon as we had the positive test and we knew where the identity, then right now there's a whole team from the state, Notre Dame, everyone's working in great cooperation, and so what will happen with that case investigation is that individual that was positive, all the close contacts then are identified. And though there's an extensive history that will be taken to find out the answer to all those questions, then, and that's how they go through the investigation then to find out who this individual may have gotten the disease from, and if in fact this virus is spreading from someone that picked it up from another person. So we are gaining our scientific knowledge as we do each of these investigations. As we have more of that knowledge, then that helps inform our decision making regarding our community containment.
So at this point, it's safe to say you don't know where the individual contracted
That's right. We have no idea at this time until the case investigation's done.
I have a follow-up on the other question real quickly. I mean, so if there's a case, for example, here in Fort Wayne, are you going to say point blank, there's a case in Fort Wayne, or if there's a case at a particular school in Fort Wayne, is the state going to announce what is the case at that particular school?
Well, I think what we're seeing unfold publicly and across the nation, certainly if the school needs to close, that's a public announcement. That's not something we can keep confidential. And because of the nature of the contagion, this is contagious, and we do want folks to limit that. The first thing that would happen, if I get back a positive from Fort Wayne, I'm calling Dr. McMahon. That's what I did yesterday. I was on the phone with the health officer as soon as possible, and so I'd be calling Dr. McMahon, and we would be consulting together. We would be giving recommendations based on whatever the individual situation is. She would be telling me, what her plans would be and what she would like to do. We'll work jointly with whatever the proper decision is.
So would she be telling us that?
Yes, and then Dr. McMahon, as this unfolds, I will tell you, I think that's one of our messages today. That's why I wanted to get out. The state is working very hard, and we're here to support, but we can't be every place. And so that's why our network of public health and having the local health officers, for Dr. McMahon is your person to look to.
Our health professionals talking about this behind the scenes. Are you saying, oh my gosh, or are you saying it's not going to be that bad?
This is a time in my life I wish I had a crystal ball. Because, and I think everyone's that way, there's a lot of experts are looking at this. There are just a lot of unanswered questions. The reason that you're seeing so much media around this and our concern is because historically we know that a virus that behaves like this virus, although we don't have all the characteristics of a virus that might do this, does it cause serious disease, as an example? It would be one of the things. And it's kind of a yes-no right now with this virus. With general influenza, and this is something we forget, during the influenza season, we have about 36,000 deaths during seasonal influenza, which we deal with every year. Many times that's in the elderly, the immunocompromised, folks with other risk factors. Sometimes we have healthier individuals or children who die from the flu. And that happens every year. That's something that public health battles on an ongoing basis. This particular virus, it's kind of a yes-no. We're seeing stuff coming out of Mexico that says one thing. Here in the United States, we're still learning. We do know it's human-to-human contact. How widespread it is as we get these epidemiological studies. That's why this is so fluid and unfolding. So behind the scenes, that's what everyone's talking about. We just don't have all the answers right now, but we're watching diligently.
In terms of
There's a question back there.
in terms of the number of cases you have, are we still working just on that one, or are there any more?
We have other samples that have gone to CDC for confirmation, and they're, we're working on some situations right now that again, we don't have enough information, but we expected that. That's the other thing, as this virus, as it became known that we had a new virus, one of the things we did in the state, we stepped up looking for it. I sent messages out to all providers saying if folks have these symptoms, and maybe they've had this travel or whatever, please test them, which means we're getting more test samples in, and how many of those will end up being positive is unknown at this time.
Can you
Those
tell us?
suspect cases? Sorry.
I'm just going to ask, can you tell us what region possibly those samples are coming from?
I actually don't have that information myself.
Are those suspect cases?
Yeah, I don't have it at this time.
Are those suspect cases?
Well, I mean, anyone that comes in with these symptoms, if you have these symptoms and perhaps travel, and then we're testing, then we've got enough suspicion that we want to test for it because we're trying to understand this disease and what kind of spread. But I don't know how many. I mean, this is so fluid. I'm not getting those numbers right now.
The bird flu, in Indonesia, China, that area that we were so concerned about, I think they spoke, one of the reasons it had such a high, almost 50% mortality rate, was this over-inflammatory reaction, this cytokine storm. Are we seeing that among some of the deaths?
That is one of the questions, because there have been some young adults, and that's one of the characteristics of this virus that we have some concern about. So in Mexico, what we've seen are some cases of young adults that have died from this. And we do know